Misa or Schaefer, it feels like the Sharks can't lose. Gil Martin of Locked On Isles joins where we discuss the top two picks.
You're Locked On Sharks, your daily podcast on the San Jose Sharks, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello, welcome to Locked On Sharks, the premier hockey podcast covering your favorite team in the Bay Area. My name is JD Young, caretaker at the Reef, also the co-host of Locked On NHL. I want to thank you for making Locked On Sharks your first listen. Proudly a part of the Locked On Network. We cover your team every day. And if you want to be an everyday, all you have to do is just follow wherever you get podcasts, or you can watch on YouTube as well. Gil Martin from Locked On Islanders joins where we break down the top two picks in the draft. We look at kind of the Islanders retool, as he's calling it, and see how that's going, what they need. Spoiler, they need a lot of stuff. We talk about Schaefer, Misa, and if Hagens maybe enters the conversation some. And we look at what a potential trade would look like for the Sharks to move up to number one. And spoiler, it is way too much. You do not want to give up all those assets. So let's get to it. Whenever you can get the reigning Locked On podcast of the week, you have to get them on. Gil Martin, how's it going, buddy? We have big stuff to talk about as the Sharks and the Isles hold the number one and number two picks. First of all, how are you doing, buddy? It's a crazy time over in Long Island, right?
It is. It is. We finally have a new GM. We have the first overall pick in the draft. And hey, weren't you the pod of the week, a week before? So
this might be, I wonder if there's ever been the pod of the week, two times in a row. Now we're doing a podcast to see who's the pod to destroy all other pods. No, it's you. You're easily the pod of the week. So it's the summer of Gil, right? You got a new GM. You got the first overall pick. You don't have to deal with Lou Lamoriello in your life any longer soon. So let's talk about kind of this first and second overall pick, which I think we'll get to the players with Schaefer and Misa. But let's start with the Isles and what this means for them. A team that has been kind of, I don't want to say wandering the wilderness, but you guys have been kind of wandering the wilderness the past couple seasons here. So what is getting this first overall pick and new GM? What does this all mean for you?
Hopefully it means speeding up the retool. I know ownership is not wanting to go down the full rebuild route that the Sharks have gone through the last few years. They want to sell tickets. They've got a new building. They're building real estate around it that they want to have occupied and people engaged with. So they want to avoid that. And I think, our mantra on Locked On Islanders over the last year or two has been that this team needs to get younger, faster, and more skilled. Everyone believed that except Lou, pretty much. So this will hopefully help speed up that process.
I mean, you have a GM who's going to drag you into the 21st century now. Hopefully that is the hope. And coming from a very smart organization, the Tampa Bay Lightning, so that is the hope here that Darsh, former Shark, Darsh can help you do that. So with the Sharks here, right, we know what the Sharks team is, right? And Mike Greer has been very slow and cautious in how he's going to do this, and he wants to build to the draft. The term I use on Locked On Sharks is sustainable success, right? You don't want to be that flash in the pan team of like the Kraken a couple years ago, right? You make the playoffs, and then what have you been done since then? And they haven't done anything, right? You want to be that next Tampa Bay team. You want to be the next Colorado team. You want to be that next team that everybody is trying to kind of knock off. And I think the Sharks are eventually on their way there. They did the hard part in finding Macklin Celebrini, who you feel like is going to be a bona fide superstar in the NHL, and Will Smith is well on his way too, and stuff. But for the Sharks, I think getting this second, this is hopefully that last top end really high piece, and that next year you're making a Ducks type of run of okay, can we be can we play 500 hockey? I think that's the goal for next year. Can you just play 500 hockey for a team that hasn't played 500 hockey in a few years now, and just see growth and development from the young players as we saw this season. So when it comes to the prospect pools, we were looking at quite opposite ends here when it comes to the Isles and the Sharks, right? The Sharks, if you want to include Celebrini or Smith in the prospect pool or not, but like you could argue have the best prospect pool in the NHL, and then you have the Isles, who I would say outside of Boston has one of the worst prospect pools in the NHL. They added some nice pieces this offseason. So
they did.
The trade deadline, but what is Misa or Schaefer kind of represent, I think, for the Isles is like just that like crown jewel piece in your prospect pool.
Yeah, I mean, look, the prospect pool got better last year for two reasons. Number one, Cole Yzerman fell to the Islanders in the draft. And for the first time in 5 years, Lou did not trade away the first round pick. So we actually had, I didn't know what to do with myself. I actually had to preview the draft this year because there was a first round pick, which we hadn't had to do in quite a while. So Yzerman is your potential sniper type. If he can improve away from the puck and do the other things he needs to do to excel at the NHL level. You have Callum Ritchie, who they acquired in the Brock Nelson trade, who's allegedly, probably a second line center at his ceiling, but, maybe can replace Brock Nelson's role eventually when he gets up to speed. And then you have a lot of question marks. Now, you do have the number one pick in this year's draft. And because of the Brock Nelson trade, you have 2 first-round picks in 2026. So there are reasons for hope that you can replenish this pool. And then the other thing, ideally, if you're looking at Matthew Darche and what he can do, the Islanders have too many players on the wrong side of 30 who are sort of on the downside of their careers with big, ugly contracts, many of them even with no trade clauses or modified no trade clauses.
This sounds so familiar, Gil.
I'm sure it does. It's deja vu all over again. But hopefully Darche can move out some of those players and maybe add, whether it's young players or prospects, even middle of the road prospects to make Bridgeport better, because the Bridgeport Islanders won 4 home games out of 36 last year, a new AHL record for futility. There's a lot of work to be done to rebuild the organization, not just the big club. But again, there are reasons for optimism. You've got multiple picks. You've got a few young players finally who you have your eye on and say in a year or two, they will be, adding to the pool. So that's what it looks like. And hopefully Darche makes a good choice. And, everyone's talking Schaefer or Misa. Hopefully both of them pan out to be good players. And then it's just a question of where they fit in each respective organization. What you said the Sharks, hopefully this is their last really high pick for a while. What do you see as the biggest need in the organization as of right now?
Yeah, I mean, I think the biggest need is that like true number one defenseman, preferably right-handed, which unfortunately this draft is not going to give you that option. Next year, there's some options, but this year, most likely not. So, they drafted Sam Dickinson last year with the 11th overall pick, the pick they got from the Penguins, and they kind of traded up. But anyway, Dickinson, who's had a monster season in the OHL, was the OHL Defenseman of the Year. He is well on his way to being the kind of that minutes munching, full two-way defenseman, like the defenseman you see on winning teams in playoff modes, right? You have Celebrini, your 1C. There's questions on Will Smith if he's going to be a 2C or not, and that's where if you draft Michael Misa, it just gives you more flexibility on what you could do there. But I think for the Sharks, and you found your goalie, your potential goalie of the future, and Askarov with the trade that they got from the that they made with the Preds last year. And the Shark and Mike Greer has done a really good job of one, acquiring young players, and two, filling up the war chest again. Right, you have this year's Dallas pick, which is probably gonna is not looking like it's going to be a playoff or a Stanley Cup run, but who knows with the Stars, if they can turn that series around. You have the Oilers pick next year. You have your own first round pick next year. You have 2 second round picks this year. You have 2 second round picks next. He's done the work to get a lot of assets, and also the Sharks have one of the cleanest caps in the NHL now. They head into the offseason with the most cap space. Basically, Tyler Toffoli is the only guy signed in the 27-28 season. And yes, like Macklin Celebrini and Will Smith and stuff will still be on the team then, or you're hoping they'll still be on the team by then. But the work that Mike Greer has done in a short amount of time to take one of the worst cap situations when you had so many players signed way past their 30s onto long contracts to either kind of ship those guys out or whatever, or kind of just naturally go through some of these contracts, to now, again, a team that's going to have all the flexibility in the world to do whatever they want, whether it's go acquire a star player through free agency, through trades, whatever they want to do. The Sharks are going to be able to do it. And hopefully this was the last of just painful hockey that we have to experience this offseason. So it's they keep saying the future is teal. It's starting to look like, Gil, the future is going to be teal very, very soon for Bay Area hockey fans. So we know it's probably going to be Misa or Schaefer, picks 1 and 2. Is there anyone else maybe that you want to talk about in there? We're going to look at the guys who are going to be at the top of the draft here in just 1 second. Looking for a snack that's both delicious and nutritious? Crack into a good source of protein with the Wonderful Pistachios. Wonderful Pistachios is one of the highest protein nuts. Each 1 ounce serving has 6 grams of protein, giving you over 10% of your daily value. Plus, they're packed with fiber and better for you unsaturated fats to help keep you feeling fuller longer. So many different options. I like the in-shell variety. Maybe I'm old school. I like hearing the little crack, just the plain salt for me. But if you like the ones with no shell, I'm not going to shell shame you. They have plenty of different flavors, plenty of different options. I like throwing a bag in my desk at work right around 2:30, right? You get that little snacky feeling. Nice to just grab a bag of Wonderful Pistachios, and you feel ready to go for the afternoon, and at least until dinner comes calling. So get snacking and get cracking with the snack that packs a protein punch. Visit wonderfulpistachios.com to learn more. All right, before we get to Misa versus Schaefer, I do want to thank you guys for making either Locked On Sharks or Locked On Isles your number one, your first list of the day. If you haven't yet, perfect time to subscribe because, again, both of our franchises have massive off seasons here. Gil trying to do the retool. Sharks, you have all the money in the world and a bajillion draft pick. So plenty of fun stuff coming up on Locked On Sharks and Locked On Isles. So make sure you're following along wherever you get podcasts. Of course, you can watch on YouTube as well. All right, Gil, we know it's most likely Michael Misa or Matthew Schaefer. Let's start with Schaefer, who's been kind of the number one picked as put as the number one defenseman, or at least number one player. He's the number one defenseman, left-handed defenseman out of Erie. Amazing player, but you have a small sample size, right? So with Schaefer, right, he broke it. He started the season with mono, came back, looked awesome, broke his collarbone at World Juniors, and never returned this season. So are you worried as an Isles fan about the small sample size, or just get me a defenseman because we need defensemen?
Both. I mean, yeah, the small sample size does concern me a little bit. The thing that sort of alleviates that a little is what he did at World Juniors. So at least on the biggest stage available for someone of that age group, he shined. And that was after the mono, I believe. So that sort of reinforces it. And I'm a little relieved it was a collarbone, not a knee. And that sort of usually takes longer, and you may never fully recover and go back to where you were before the injury. So, he skates really well. He's intelligent. He sees the game very well. He can munch minutes, as you alluded to earlier. the difficulty is the small sample size, and then the difficulty you have with all players in the NHL draft projecting what a 17 or 18-year-old kid is going to be at 25. Yeah. But other than that, I think, the Islanders dynasty was built primarily around Dennis Potvin. He was sort of the cornerstone of that dynasty. And I look through the Islanders prospect group. There are no elite defense prospects right now. There's some decent ones, but nobody who would be considered a number one pairing, and certainly not a number one overall. There are some forwards like Callum Ritchie, like Cole Yzerman, who could be top six or certainly top line in Yzerman's situation. So those are the concerns and those are the good points. But to me, you got to take the best player available, with the caveat that that player has to make the biggest impact on your franchise. But again, do I expect either one of these guys to come in and, score 40 goals or 70 points as rookies? No. So where are they going to be in 3 years, 4 years? That's essentially the big question.
Yeah, and I think with Schaefer, right, you expect him to go back with Erie next season and have hopefully a healthy season with the Otters and kind of really show why he was potentially there. And then I actually wouldn't be surprised because of his skating, his intelligence, and his weight. When you talk about his skate, he is a beautiful skater, like one of the best skaters in this draft class, if not the best skater in this draft class. I wouldn't be surprised if he's pushing for the NHL if he has a good season next year, in the following year. Michael Misa, the guy who a lot of, ironically enough, draft pundits are kind of saying he's a faster John Tavares. Last time, of course, the Isles were in this situation. They picked John Tavares. You're looking at a player who can play a full 200-foot game. He's going to be able to score. He's going to help out in your defensive zone. And centers, we see everybody's always looking for a center. Brock Nelson was traded this year because everyone's looking for a 2C, right? And maybe Michael Misa's a 1C, maybe not. Maybe again, and if you have Callum Ritchie, could be your 2C, and Michael Misa is your 1C. That's not a bad start to a retool there. So and Misa, We've been down this road. Why don't you just get John Tavares 2.0? That could solve a lot of problems too, right?
It could, although John Tavares 1.0 left a bad taste in a lot of Islander fans' mouths. So yeah,
we have to check see if he has the Isles or if he has the Leafs sheets first.
That's right, the pajamas and.
It might be a little easier nowadays. It's just all on his mom's Facebook, I'm sure. But no, Michael Misa, though, having a full 200-foot center. And yes, I know he left a bad taste. John Tavares is still a very good hockey player, right?
Oh yeah.
But yeah, so what would potentially bringing Misa to the Islanders mean to you? I think.
I think it gives you with him and Ritchie, as you alluded to, a nice potential 1-2 punch at center for years to come. Again, assuming both of them reach their potential and develop into what they are projected to be. And I don't think any team is going to say no to that kind of offense. I mean,
nope.
it is hard to get those elite offensive players. Now, he's a little more of a setup guy than a goal scorer, and I think we have Yzerman
60 some odd goals this season.
Yeah, but okay.
I watched a lot of Michael Misa this year because one of his line mates, Igor Chernyshov, was a Sharks second round pick this year.
Okay.
The dude could put the puck in the back of the net with the best.
Okay.
So he's very capable of scoring. I wouldn't be surprised his peak if he's a potential 40 goal scorer for a team. He is the dude could put the puck in the back of the net. You don't have to worry about that. So, yes. So,
that's
anyway,
good.
sorry.
I mean, in all fairness, there are some fourth line NHLers who scored 50 goals in juniors. I mean, that's,
That is fair. Yes. But Misa's he's going to be able to score in the NHL. I'm not worried about that. So I think I want to give the kid some credit. I think he's good. So
not taking anything away. Now I heard some scouts say he might also be able to play wing. Do you see that as I know you're very good with prospects. Do you see that as a possible projection?
He is. So he spent the 23-24 season, he actually played the wing the entire season that year. This season he went back to playing center, his natural position. He could play wing. I think he's best at center, to be honest. I think you're like he's the type of player, like he played all the time for Saginaw, a team that very much relied on his top guys because they had no defense and their goaltending was suspect. So they relied on Misa and Chernyshov and some of their other top guys to try to outscore all their problems. And they were pretty good at that, to be honest, for the most part. I mean, they were having to win a lot of 7-5 type of games, which in the O, you see that, right? But he's a dude. I mean, they were double shifting him. He was like, he's playing first line, then he's on the third line because they just needed him out there all the time. Play on the PK, play on the power play. Like he's whatever situation you need Misa to play in, he's going to play. And I think he's got solid size. At 6'1". Like he's, I think he is a bona fide, like if the Sharks draft him, having that as your 2C behind Celebrini, and just that like Celebrini, who's the kind of Sidney Crosby Jr., right? And then you get Michael Misa, who's the John Tavares Jr., as your like center depth for the next 15 years. And then you have Will Smith, who's just hanging out on the wing as well. Like that's not the worst problem in the world to have right there. So I do think Misa like is going to be a very, very good hockey player. And I think he's going to be one of those players who's just going to, whatever you need him to do, he's going to do that for you. There is, of course, the Hagens question. Hagens, who was actually projected to be the number one pick going into this season, had a good year at Boston College. Maybe not the year we I think a lot of people expected, right? And especially when you're playing with Ryan Leonard and Gabe Perreault, who are both in the NHL now. And you saw what Will Smith, who was drafted by the Sharks 4th overall 2 years ago, did with those guys, right? Maybe he didn't have this season, but still is like a legitimate 200-foot player, like is going to be a good player. From Long Island, grew up an Islanders fan. Is there a chance Darsh does the crazy thing and picks the local kid? Maybe.
Is there a chance? Sure. Yes. Is it likely? No. Like the way I would see them getting Hagens is if they trade back. Like if they trade back with Utah, let's say, and get like the 4th or 5th pick. There, it seems to me, would be his better spot. Nothing against him. I'd love to get him. I would. The story would be a great story. The buzz would be great. But when you have the 1st overall pick in the draft, you want to pick the best player, period. Yes. And, look, 10 years from now, looking back, could Hagens be the best player? Very possible. But you gotta make the pick that makes the most sense with that top pick. It's not where you want to go. You say, Wink, I'm going off the board. I'd like to, it's
his Darsh's first thing is he just goes rogue with the number 1 pick.
Yeah, so I would tend to think they're not going to go down that road. But hey, stranger things have happened, right?
They have. I mean, Shane Wright was the number 1 pick until 24 hours before the draft, and he fell to 4. So you never know. That's what makes the draft so fun. So you mentioned a trade. And we're going to look at it because I know a lot of fans are like, well, maybe the Sharks should just try to trade up because we know, I think Sharks would covet Matthew Schaefer. We're going to explore trade and if our teams would respectively do it here in just 1 second. All right, before we continue this crossover episode of Locked On Sharks / Locked On Isles, I do want to thank you guys for making us your first listen of the day. For your second listen, check out the all-new Locked On NHL Game Night. Every game, every night, until a Stanley Cup champion is crowned. Get local analysis on a national scale. Find NHL Game Night on Locked On NHL on YouTube, wherever you listen to podcasts. Okay, the trade. So I kind of did a little bit of math beforehand. And if you, whatever value chart you want to look at, right? And there's always value charts for draft picks and stuff, but kind of looking at Puckpedia, and they have a nice little value chart where they give the number one pick in the draft a 100. So that pick is worth 100 points. And then it kind of goes down from there. The Sharks' second overall pick is worth about 72. So that's the drop off from number
big drop.
2 is it's almost 30 points there. Basically, to make the value even, the Sharks have to give up number 2, the Dallas pick this year, which is probably
number
30, probably 29 or 30, right, assuming they don't win the Oilers series. They have to give the Oilers pick next year, which is probably going to be a late first-round pick because the Oilers, we project the Oilers to be good next year, right?
Right.
Or at least somewhat good. And then they have to throw in a random second-round pick. So the Sharks do have 4 of those over the next 2 seasons. So that's all that just to move up 1 spot. Gil is 100% doing that, aren't you?
You offer me all that to move up 1 spot, and I'll
move
take
back
whoever
yeah.
you don't take. So I would get Misa plus all that other stuff, like 2 1s and a 2. Yeah.
Yeah. 2-1. So you'd end up with 3 first round picks, including, so you did the number 2, the end of the first round this year, which the end of the first round this year is kind of meh. Right. A second round pick, whichever one it doesn't matter. Right. And then the Oilers pick next year to move back 1 spot. That, as a Sharks fan, would be crazy. I am 1,000,000% not doing that because the Sharks are just not in a position to be like, with all these draft picks and I think that's, you kind of alluded to it before, but with all these draft picks, they're lottery tickets. And some lottery tickets, the first or second pick, are, you feel pretty good about what you're getting there. But some of these other lottery tickets, end of the first round, second round picks, you're hoping that they turn out to be something. And the Sharks organization, even though they do have the best prospect pool in the NHL right now, I am not in the position to just be giving away all these things to move up to. Still, we don't know if Schaefer is going to be. I think Schaefer is going to be a wonderful player. I think Schaefer is going to be a number 1 defenseman in the NHL. Number 1 defensemen are really hard to find.
They are.
But we still are projecting right now. Right. And I think giving up 4 picks to move up one draft spot, and especially when you have Michael Misa just sitting there, like, yes, the Sharks still need to try to find a defenseman, but there are other avenues and routes to do so. And I am not doing that trade.
Well, so. let me ask you this. Okay. Are there any prospects in the Sharks pool that you could substitute maybe for one of those picks that would make the deal a little more palpable to you?
Yeah, I mean, the Sharks do have a ton. Like, you could look at some of their guys like Quentin Musty, who is a first-round pick in the 2023 draft, 26th overall. Had a weird year this season in the OHL where he sat out the first, like, definitely a season where he's one of those players who was hurt by the CHL NHL agreement, where way too good to be playing in the OHL, but not ready for the NHL. And this is before, of course, now with the college rules and everything like that, where he kind of is that like prototypical, just like, what am I doing here, dude, type of player. So Mutsi is going to be playing in the AHL next year. Like, he's a guy I know some Sharks fans are maybe cooled off a little bit on because of the season he had. I'm still very high on him. I think he's he's a potential 25 to 30 goal scorer type of player. You could look at a guy like Kasper Halttunen, who's been playing with London. Dude has one of the best shots outside the NHL. He's going to be more like a power play specialist type of guy who's going to probably play in the third line forecheck, but then he's just going to crush one-timers on the power play. I know you have Cole Eiserman, who's probably going to be a more well-rounded player, but like, you're probably looking at guys like that who are about ready to, kind of finish up their junior years as guys that you could potentially move on. But again, if you're the Sharks right now, like, I just don't think a trade like that makes a lot of sense. If you were trading for a young NHL player like a Simone Nemec or a Noah Dobbs, or like one of those guys who's like you've seen play in the NHL, they're about ready, you could talk me into it more. I just think with where the Sharks are at in their rebuild, it doesn't make sense for them to be consolidating picks and prospects quite yet.
Mhm.
Again, where they're at in their rebuild, and we
Now,
know this is a long rebuild, and it's we again trying to build towards that sustainable success. Because if you draft Schaefer and he doesn't work out, and then you quit Musty is awesome with the Islanders,
right.
it's not a good trade, right? Like no matter what else happens, it's just not a good trade.
So you mentioned Noah Dobson. He is an RFA, and you need a number one defenseman. He scored 70 points just a year ago. What do you think the Sharks would offer for the rights to, and maybe you even are able to sign Noah Dobson in principle before you make the trade? What would that, and I'm playing devil's advocate here. I'm not saying I know anything is imminent or that, but what would you think the Sharks would reasonably offer for Dobson at this point?
I know it's hard because with the Isles, if they're trying to do this retool, like kind of retool on the fly, right? You would assume they want someone who's going to be either NHL ready now, or can play NHL games for you now, or is going to be NHL ready here soon, right?
Right.
And the problem is the Sharks just don't have a lot of those guys, that are like left over, that aren't like core pieces, right? Because I know a lot of people are like, well, just trade William Eklund because you have a bunch of forwards, but like William Eklund's a good young player who's 22, going to be 23. Like he's a piece of your future. And again, like I like Noah Dobson, but I'm not. And this is just probably a homerism in me with Eklund. Like I'm not trading William Eklund, who has produced on a very horrible Sharks team and is just going to get better. Like Mario Ferraro is like the only guy where you're like, maybe like that, but like, do the Isles want Mario Ferraro? Who's probably like on a good team, like a fourth or fifth defenseman for their number one defenseman. So I mean, I think it would probably start with the Dallas pick this year, which I do think Mike Weir trades the Dallas pick this year for a NHL rosterable player. It probably starts with that, but the problem is the Sharks just don't have a lot of things outside. I think that teams like the Isles would be looking for. So I am with the Noah Dobson thing, because I know you don't want to pay Noah Dobson the like $10 million that he's going to cost, and I know that's it is a big contract for a team like the Isles, who again you're trying to clean up your cap space. So I don't know. The idea makes sense. I just don't know if the Sharks have the pieces that the Isles want right now that would make a ton of sense for them. I could offer you Noah Gregor's rights, so we'll just call it Gregor. Noah for Noah, 1 for 1. The trade was 1 for 1.
Pass.
I tried my best, guys.
Hey,
Noah Gregor does go burr. If you're looking for someone who's fast, Noah Gregor is your guy. Can he score? Absolutely not, but he is fast. So that is one thing on your checklist.
He will not score, but he'll do it quickly.
He will quickly not score for you.
That's right.
So that is one thing that's, right. You're looking to get faster and younger. Noah Gregor, he's like mid-20s, but he is very fast. So we'll skip over the skilled part of your checklist. So
there you go.
But yeah, I know a lot of fans, like they love to talk about trades for the picks. It's just like if you look at the history of the league, like the last 20 years, like nobody trades like top 10 picks in the NHL, like unless it's for a like star type of player, like the DeBrincat trade a couple of years ago with the Sens, right? I think they traded 7th overall for DeBrincat from the Red Wing, or was that from Chicago? Anyway, it's from Chicago. Sorry. Right. You just don't see, like, it's not like the NHL or like the NFL, right, where you see trades go flying around with picks, or like even the NBA where teams will trade the picks. All of us, like, it just doesn't happen in the NHL because they're all old curmudgeons who don't want to trade them. Like, you just don't want to be the guy who trades the number one pick trade, especially if it's like you're like a month into your job as Matt.
Tough gamble to take.
Not a good gamble to take. So, but yeah, I think we'll see. I think we're both going to be very happy if it's either our teams end up with Misa or Schaefer. I think either one of us, I've come to the conclusion, are both going to be very happy with whoever they take, as long as they get Misa or Schaefer, the two best players in the draft. So, Gil, where can the people find you, buddy?
You find the podcast wherever you get podcasts, and on YouTube as well. And you could find the show on X at Locked On Isles, and you could find me at Ice Wars NYR VSNYI.
That is a long handle, buddy.
It's based on my book, so yeah.
I know it's based on the book. Does it hurt you a little bit having to talk about the range? Like you literally have the Rangers in your.
Yeah, but it's the rivalry. The rivalry between the Rangers and the Islanders was, historically fantastic. So
I'm not putting the Knights or the Kings in my handle, buddy. We might need to. I get it. We might need to work on
because your Twitter handle absolutely screams Sharks. So
it does scream Sharks. To be fair, it's a great Futurama joke. So and Futurama is a great show. But anyway, of course, Locked On Sharks, wherever you listen to podcasts, watch on YouTube, the whole thing. You got the whole 9 yards. So Gil, I'm sure we'll talk again soon, buddy.
Looking forward to it. Thank you, JD. Always a pleasure.